What's going on, guys? The 2024 British Grand Prix is now over, and boy, what a day it was. I am exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally from this race and this weekend. Not only just from F1. If you don't know, I also am moving, although this shot doesn't really show it. Directly behind my camera is a war zone. And so this is going to be a relatively short and sweet recap of the British Grand Prix weekend. We're going to talk about our quick hits, our race winners and losers. We'll round things out with our predictions recap. And then we'll get a nice couple week break before F1 comes back with the Hungarian Grand Prix. But let's go ahead and jump on into our first segment, our race quick hits. Before we jump into our quick hits, if you have not already, subscribe below. We'd love to talk about F1 and sim racing here on this channel. I'm excited to bring some more content that way as well, especially once my move is complete and I actually get a new office, and I'm gonna have some exciting plans coming up. So subscribe down below so you don't miss any of that exciting action as it comes up. Also, leave a comment down below what you would give the British Grand Prix out of 10. It was a very fun race. We're going to cover it all right here, but I would love to see what you guys think down in the comment section below. And as always, leave a like if you enjoy the video, and leave a turn on notifications so you don't miss a single upload. But let's go ahead. Let's get things kicked off with our race quick hits, and you have to start where it ends. Lewis Hamilton is a race winner again for the first time in 2.5 years. It is something a lot of people weren't sure we were ever going to see again, especially in Mercedes, as he has already announced his intention and done the contract signing to move to Ferrari for 2025 and beyond. Man, and to get it at his home Grand Prix around Silverstone, breaking the record he shared with Michael Schumacher with the most wins at a single racetrack at 8, now stands alone at 9. What a result for him. I think Mercedes did everything they had to and could do to get it to him, and he ended up coming out on top. So we're going to cover it a bit here in another segment, but we'll continue to talk about that. But man, you have to start there, because where else can you start after watching that race? Speaking of Lewis and Mercedes, albeit we're going to ignore the fact that George had to DNF from this race due to a mechanical issue, it seems like Mercedes actually running at the front is not a fluke. I know for the past few of these videos and predictions videos, I've been talking about how we really need to see them do it consistently before we can really start to rely on Mercedes to put in these kinds of efforts. And I think we're starting to see it. I mean, we are all 3 races of this triple header. Mercedes has performed very, very well. And I think it's about time to start considering them one of the top cars again. I mean, obviously things can change over the course of just a couple of weeks. We'll find out in Hungary next time out if they can handle some of those very technical low speed sort of tracks. But for now, seems like Mercedes back up running at the front. Another team that I think is going to be coming away from the British Grand Prix kind of with their tail between their legs a little bit, I think, is McLaren, which we saw have a very rapid race car here around this weekend, as demonstrated by Oscar Piastri down the stretch. But I think the biggest thing that held McLaren back this weekend is the strategy calls. It seems like it's kind of becoming a theme over the last couple of races that Lando and McLaren have put themselves in a car that should be competing for wins, but ultimately either mistakes by their drivers' parts or mistakes on the strategy call parts that end up apparently just leading to Mercedes wins at this point. It's something I think McLaren need to get figured out, because you could tell after the British Grand Prix that Lando was devastated at this final result, finishing 3rd, when realistically he probably should have been winning, or at minimum getting 2nd in this one. So McLaren's got a long way to go, and I hope they figure it out soon, because having a race-winning car doesn't last forever. Speaking of overperforming and having a race car for once, we need to talk about Haas. Kevin Magnussen coming home in 12th after a tough qualifying session. Very solid result for Kevin. And obviously the man of the hour, the man of the day, the man of the 2 weeks is Nico Hülkenberg, coming home to finish P6 in back-to-back races in Austria and then at Silverstone. What a result, Nico. drove wonderfully, qualified extremely well, and ended up coming home in a very comfortable 6th place. It wasn't like what we saw in Austria where he was battling with Sergio Perez all the way to the line practically. We had a nice solid multi-second gap. Yeah, multi-second gap to, I believe it was Stroll behind. I don't know what to do with this information. I'm not used to this as a Haas fan. I don't know what to do with my hands. But nonetheless, Nico Hülkenberg has brought in more points in the last 2 races than Sergio Perez has done in his last 6. And that is extremely impressive. Haas now sits 4 points behind Alpine in the Constructors' title when it looked like Alpine was taking a step forward and kind of scoring solid points over and over again. All of a sudden, we are right back on their heels, baby. Let's keep pushing, Haas. Come on. Let's get Kevin up there, and we'll be scoring double points all day long. Let's round out the quick hits, I think, with Williams because they deserve a special shout out. Alex Albon finishing in the points once again, finishing in P9. And I would be remiss to not mention Logan Sargent, which I believe just had his best weekend in his F1 career. I think obviously in terms of best memory, I think it would definitely have to be the US Grand Prix last year where he scored his first points. But that was primarily due to the fact that 2 drivers were, disqualified in the top 10. This was, I think, one of his better weekends. We saw him, making moves down the stretch to solidify his spot in P11, and he was oh so close to a good points finish. On the 4th of July weekend in the UK, couldn't have asked for anything more. But nonetheless, I think this is definitely one of Logan's best weekends we've seen from him yet. Let's quickly move on to our weekend winners and losers, and we're going to start with our weekend winner, and I think we all know where this is going, and should I need to say more, Lewis Hamilton is my pick for our weekend winner. His first win, and I think I saw 945 days, his first win since 2021, his first win in this new regulation era, and his last British Grand Prix in the Mercedes car that we know of. What a way to storybook this one. He looked rapid all day. He did exactly what he needed to do, and he brought it home to the delight of the 400,000+ people that attended over the course of the weekend. It was very tricky conditions, interchangeable the whole way through, and at the end of the day, he was the one who crossed the line first. And I think that definitely makes most of us winners, but him nonetheless the winner of the weekend. Rounding out this segment with our weekend loser, and I touched on it already, and I believe it has to go to McLaren. This is the first time in a long time that we've seen McLaren make these kinds of strategy mistakes, and I think we're going to see that it really started to compound, and now over this next 2 weeks, we're going to hear a lot of talk about the mistakes that they made, costing not only Lando, but Oscar also very, very, very even better results over the course of this triple header. I mean, both the last 2 weekends have led from mistakes from both drivers and strategy team that both ended up in Mercedes getting their first wins of the year, and back-to-back weekends at that, and one for each driver. So I don't think McLaren is going to be feeling particularly good about that. And I think this one, ultimately, when the British Grand Prix ultimately just came down to the strategy calls, Piastri left out to dry by not double stacking in the pits when going on to inters. Lando being left out 1 lap too long when the switch back to slicks, and then culminated it all with a slow stop and putting him on the softs when he had a brand new shiny set of mediums sitting on the rack, which I think he definitely could have done with, as we saw Max Verstappen tear back up onto P2 in the podium when Lando's tires just became far too worn and degraded to really help him keep up with Lewis. And so I think they're going to be kicking themselves a lot in this debrief. I would not be wanting to be a part of that team. I think today, as they debriefed and go on to a 2-week break, but man, what a weekend it could have been for McLaren. A still solid result, but at the end of the day, it's another weekend of just what if. All right, I am exhausted and my voice is starting to go, so let's very quickly wrap this thing up with our predictions recap. We'll start with my pick for biggest positive surprise. I went for Oscar Piastri, and while Oscar did have a very good race and a very good result and showed a lot of good pace, at the end of the day, he is not the biggest positive surprise. He finishes P4 off the podium, especially when we get to the later predictions. I could not in good conscience give myself this one because, man, it was a good race from Oscar, all things considered, but not enough to give me the point on that one. Speaking of, this one was a bit of a contested decision in the Discord, because I put it up to the community to kind of give their final say on it. My biggest disappointment was George Russell. Now, he did end up taking pole position and ended up DNFing from the race due to a mechanical issue and no fault of his own. So we decided ultimately no points for that. Although a DNF is definitely disappointing, I don't think we can attribute it to George himself. Looking at our qualifying top three, this one I think was the biggest miss of the weekend for me. I had a Max Verstappen pole position, an Oscar Piastri P2, and a Lando Norris P3. Now, Lando did end up finishing in P3, so I get the full point for that one. But a 1 out of 3 finish for quali, not my finest work, but it does get us on the board. Moving on to our race podium, I actually do get 2 points for this one. I did predict an Oscar Piastri win. That one did not happen. I was definitely reaching with this one, but there was just something in the air in the back of my head that said this might have been possible. And who knows what might have happened if McLaren hadn't made the massive mistake of not double stacking on the first pit stop window drama. So no Piastri win. A Max Verstappen P2 and a Lando Norris P3 though. Ding ding ding. 2 points out of 3, nailing them exactly. I will take every single day of the week. And my one crazy prediction was that Max and Lando was going to have another moment leading to another new winner in 2024. And now, while I did predict a new winner in 2024, I don't think there was enough going on between Max and Lando to count this. If I just left off the beginning part and just said another new winner in 2024, which would have been correct with my predictions, I would have gotten this point, just not the way I thought about it. So ultimately, I came home and finished with 3 points this week, bringing my total to 45.5 points. Heading into finishing up the midway point in the year, I'm sitting on 45.5 points. And taking a look at the rest of our standings, we have British with 44.5. Sentinel with a massive week, getting 5.5 points over the course of the weekend to tie British now at 44.5 as well. Inferno with 24.5, and then Andrew bringing up the rear. Also a very good weekend for him, also getting 5.5 points. Now he has 23.5 points to his name. So the top of the leaderboard and the bottom of the leaderboard is definitely tightening up, and is going to get very, very exciting as we continue on into the back half of this season. But guys, that only leaves one question remaining. What's next in F1? 2 weeks from now, F1 heads to Hungary to race around the Hungaroring. Last year, we saw a podium of Verstappen, Norris, and Perez, rather. And who are we going to see on the podium this year? I think we could see something similar, maybe -1. But let me know down in the comment section below who you think is going to end up on the podium in 2 weeks' time. And we'll see how it fares when we get there. But guys, that is going to wrap up our recap. I am so tired. I'm so happy to see Lewis get a race win again. It has been far too long to see. And to get his 9th win at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, absolute scenes. You can see exactly how much that meant to him. If you went to the race in person, I hope you enjoyed it. If not, I hope you enjoyed watching it with your friends, family, or just by yourself. It was hard not to smile at the end of that one. Yeah, I'm ready for a 2-week break. It seems like these videos have been coming like a whirlwind, this triple header, so I am also ready for a quick break in terms of making these videos, but we'll see. I get to focus on making my move, and I hope you guys enjoy the break as well. That's going to wrap it up for me here in this one, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed it, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single upload. That's going to wrap it up for me here, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.